Good morning to you all. I welcome you wholeheartedly to this flagship webinar on outlook for exploration and development of oil and gas sector. We are extremely grateful and obliged to Mr. Amar Nath, IEF Additional Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, for his gracious presence and agreeing to deliver the inaugural address and be a chief guest. Sir, India Energy Forum, myself, all members of India Energy Forum are grateful to you for your gracious presence today. Let me introduce the few words about the India Energy Forum. India Energy Forum was set up in February 2001. It's a non-profit NGO set up with a mission to help evolve a national energy policy aimed at development of a sustainable and competitive energy sector in India. Please, it is probably the only organization which champions the cause of total energy. We have been organizing webinars on all verticals of energy, including coal, power, oil and gas, renewables, nuclear, regulatory, and we have covered, last year we had about 17 webinars on these subjects. Our mission is to contribute effectively for development of a sustainable energy security in India. We are holding this webinar at a very crucial junction because of the world situation. There are difficulties of crude oil and the gas, and the prices are jumping. India, being the net high importer, is really worried on these accounts. So we thought that we will have a look as to how our domestic program will be catching up to meet our demand. We have completed, India Energy Forum is completed 20 years, and we celebrated 20th anniversary in the month of June 2021. Our founder president, Mr. Bami, is present today here. He always gives his presentation. The present team is headed by Mr. R.V. Shahi, former Secretary MOP, and under his dynamic guidance and leadership, the forum, even though due to restrictions of COVID, has done many activities. In fact, continuing to do a lot of activities. With these few words, I again welcome you all with open heart and hope that deliberations on this subject will be enriching your minds. May I now request Mr. Verma, former director from ONGC, to please give the details about the theme. I will also mention here that all these speakers are present today. Dr. P. Chandrasekharan, former Director Exploration Oil India, Dr. Lakshma Reddy, ADG Exploration DHG, and Dr. Anand Kumar, ADG Development DHG. So we are lucky that we have all these senior people from this organization present here. And now I hand over to the platform to Mr. Verma to please formally introduce the theme, and then we can proceed further. Yes, Mr. Verma.
Thank you, Mamaliza. And good morning to all, particularly our Additional Secretary Amar Nath Sahab, who took pains to join us in spite of his very busy schedule. And R.V. Shahi Sahab also, who just landed from a flight and then in a car, he is now joining it. All other members, who all of them have been devoting their special time here for this webinar. Let me just say a few words about this webinar. Why did we consider this webinar specifically, and what do we intend to cover it? Now, sirs, you all know that out of all the different forms of energy, oil and gas that is the upstream of hydrocarbon, that has always been under tremendous pressure. We all know that our country has not been endowed with a lot of petroleum reserves, and at the same time, the demand keeps on rising. By international standards, our consumption of per capita consumption of hydrocarbons is very, very low. It's much below the world average. And at the same time, we are making a lot of progress. So as we are making the progress, the country is developing. The demand, the standard of living is also going up, and with that, the demand of petroleum has become very high. So with this, we happen to be today the second largest exporter of hydrocarbons after China. And fears are that soon we might overcome even China to become the world's power. So that condition is going to be really very scary. We also have to see it in the light of rising petroleum prices. And just mind you, this rising prices not only because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. This petroleum prices keep on rising up and down very often. Sometimes it is not explained, sometimes it is explained, but it always creates a lot of impact and problems for all the countries which are importing it. So we have that problem always. And then we also have to see that in the COP26, we committed to reduce our hydrocarbon footprint. And by 2070, we said that we should be, that the requirement or the consumption of hydrocarbon should be going down. So today we are at a crossroads where our demand is rising. And at the same time, after some time, we intend to bring it down to a net zero level. So this balance is going to be very difficult. And what do we do on that? That's something which we need to see very carefully. Now, for that, we need to do a lot of exploration. In fact, what we see that it's a very large country with a very large coastal area, and a lot of deep waters are also available. And then a very large part of the country is still underexplored or even unexplored. So that means there is still quite a lot of potential, and a lot of work needs to be done on that. And for that, the DGH is doing very hard work. They are trying to safeguard the interest of the country. And at the same time, they want to make it investor friendly also. They want to invite investment from abroad also. So many things they are trying to do. And at the same time, our exploration experts are trying to find more oil, more gas in our country also. So today, what we are doing is, we have got one exploration expert who had been in ONGC at the top levels in ONGC and Oil India. And he'll be speaking about the prospects that we have, the yet to find reserves that we might be having. So about that, he'll say, and what we are doing on that. And then we have two experts from Directorate General of Hydrocarbons issues, and they will cover the full spectrum, including the CPM also. And they will tell what are the major policy issues and what is being done in these. To have Shri Amar today, who will be delivering the keynote address and set the tone for this webinar. But before he speaks, I would request our President, Shri Shahi Sahab, to please say his, deliver his welcome address. So Shahi Sahab, may I request you to kindly come and welcome the audience.
Mr. Shahi. Yes, Mr. Shahi. Now there will be a presidential address by our President, Mr. R.V. Shahi. So may I invite Mr. Shahi?
We join the team in welcoming our Additional Secretary and thanking him profusely for accepting our invitation to grace this occasion. Because we have been covering all the sectors of economy, particularly in the energy group. And last year we did a number of programs also on petroleum sector. When we had Mr. Tarun Kapoor, I think twice he addressed us. So today we are focusing on future, the exploration, and how do we go about it. As we all know that petroleum sector is most important in the sense that it is moving the economy. And we have so much of dependence. Apart from power, electricity, that is the lifeline of economy, lifeline of social activities. So is also the petroleum sector, whether it is gas or other petroleum derivatives. And our dependence for everything, for agriculture, for business, for industry, for factories, is so much intensely connected with what is happening in the petroleum sector. The area of concern for both the power sector and petroleum sector has been the area of climate change. So on the one hand, India has the objective and India has the task and the challenge of further growing. And for growth, both are required. Electricity is required, and so is also the petroleum side so closely required. At the same time, our power sector is so much of fossil fuel centric. Almost 70% of power that we produce is coal-based. And we have the petroleum sector, which also helps by way of gas and also the oil products for the power generation. Both these sectors, excepting for renewable power that we are trying to expand, are fossil fuel. It's not only coal is fossil fuel, also what we do in the petroleum sector is the fossil fuel. So that so far the target of environmental aspects and climate change has been the coal-based power generation, but now globally, entire sector, the oil sector, the gas sector, all are being brought into focus to see that the climate change concerns are addressed, to see that carbon emissions are reduced, to see that other gases which affect the environment are reduced. And therefore, the need not only to focus on how we run the power sector, the need is also to see how do we run the petroleum sector. Another challenge for us in India, I mean, of course, we have challenge in power sector of, as I said, climate change. But in petroleum sector, we have both. Climate change is one. That means if the consumption is more, climate change concerns get further accentuated. But the other challenge is our intense dependence on import. In the last 10 years, we have seen the amount of efforts that have been made to reduce our import dependence, but I think either we have remained at the same point or we have increased. I think now, if I'm not wrong, it is 85% plus minus. So 85% of plus minus of what we consume is import, only 15% plus minus is the domestic. So that is a big challenge. Second is that in the last 10 years, in petroleum sector or in gas sector, both the sides, the liquid fuel as well as the gas side, more or less our growth has remained either negative or stagnant, or maybe marginal growth. So that is another challenge. And from that point of view, today's discussion is very, very contemporary. How do we do about it? How do we reduce import dependence? In fact, I was talking to Mr. Verma whether we should do the futuristic thing, because that is not going to yield the result immediately, but at the same time we must attend to it. But immediate thing is what actions we take in the even short and medium term so that our dependence is reduced. Of import dependence, but also because of the dollar-rupee relationship. So I mean that also hits the economy in a big way. And seeing that the whole energy sector today, not only on the petroleum group, but all other groups put together, and not only in India, all over the world, is going through drastic changes because of the technological disruptions that are taking place. And therefore, consumption patterns are likely to change. From climate change point of view, and also from the point of view of dependence on import, particularly in India, the energy profile has to undergo substantial change. With power generation, from close to 70% now, to over next 20, 25 years or 30 years, bring it down to something like 30% of the total generation. Though still coal-based generation will be growing, but maybe in 25, 30 years, it comes down from 70% to 30%. And in petroleum sector, we want to see how our import dependence is reduced. So from that point of view, some of the changes which have already started happening, automobile sector is undergoing a drastic change. Do we depend on petroleum or we depend on electric vehicle? So that is one thing that is happening, and I think it is fast changing. There are other infrastructure like charging facilities, etc., that need to be done. The cost of electrical vehicles is coming down sharply. So that is one thing that is taking place. The railway, which has been dependent so much on the diesel, and that is also trying to change to electrification in a big way. From almost 16,000 kilometers in 2015. They are trying to do 50,000 kilometers close to all the lines which are very active. They are trying to changes that are happening in the agriculture sector. Many of the states have decided to have decentralized solar systems near around the rural areas and substations area, so that they could be fed directly, so the dependence on diesel is reduced. So I think, considering the need of the hour on climate change point of view and also on import dependence point of view, the drastic changes are happening in both these sectors. So today we are trying to focus, how do we ensure, because we cannot wish away, neither we can wish away coal, nor can we wish away our petroleum fuels. They are very vitally important, essential, needed for economy. Therefore, we cannot wish away. So how do we make them more benign? A, how do we reorganize our consumption pattern? B, and C, how do we do so that our dependence on import, as I said, I mean, Prime Minister and the government has given the call for self-reliance. Self-reliance means how much we do the domestic sort of supply, domestic manufacturing, domestic production, so that our dependence on outside, not to say that import is bad. Import will have to be there, because in global economy, we cannot wish it away. But so much of dependence, and more than 85%, is hurting. And that is where we have a very important topic that we have chosen for today, that at least, if not in the near future, in next 1 or 2 years, in the future, maybe 5 years from now, are we going to expand the production base through proper investigation, proper exploration on both the sides, on oil side as well as on gas side, so that consumption increases, but maybe percentage-wise it would reduce. So I think with these few words, I will come back again when we have the presentations and question answers. I'll come back to our summing up. So may I now request the Honorable Additional Secretary to give his keynote and inaugural address. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Shahi, for laying the carpet for all the discussions. You have a plethora of knowledge, and particularly you mentioned our basic aim to organize this webinar. As we said, may I now request our chief guest, Mr. Amar, Nath, IEF, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, to please give his inaugural address.
Thank you, Mr. Shahi. Good morning to you and to all distinguished participants. It's a pleasure for me to interact with all of you, and I can see you carry a lot of experience and you are storehouse of knowledge. So I'll not be able to add too much to what you already know, but I'll just put one or two things which we are currently engaged and what we are trying to do in the ministry. I would like to just highlight one or two issues which we have just observed in the last maybe 1 or 2 years. The climate change, all of you know that how it is working and how it is becoming more and more important and critical every day. Recently, you might have seen IPCC report. They are again emphasizing that we are becoming late and window to take action is shrinking very fast. And if we don't take care of the climate, we are going to face a lot of disasters, consequences. So climate change is also being emphasized again and again. A new factor, and which is a black swan, was not expected, was COVID. How the whole world was disrupted and changed. A lot of changes which were introduced because of the COVID, I think are going to stay permanently in our society. And one of the example is that we are able to online with all of you present at your respective locations without spending too much of energy on travel. So COVID was a black swan. Now, the next black swan, which is there as of now, is the war, the Ukraine war. People don't expect even one black swan. We are seeing two black swans in succession. And that's a very, very fundamental change. Now, we had stopped expecting that wars can take place like this. All of us were thinking that now, okay, new wars will be trade wars, economic wars, or maybe cyber wars, or maybe war in space. Nobody expected that real physical war, which is happening today, will take place. We were just thinking that these are Second World War scenario. Now the world has changed. People are not so foolish to enter into this kind of war, but we are seeing that. I think I don't know whether any of you was there in Second World War to remember. So what is happening now is that whole world is getting disrupted. And we are seeing how it is impacting us, how it is impacting our economy, and how it is impacting our energy supplies. We are going to become shortly the most populous nation in the world. Maybe we'll take over China in next 2-3 years. Maximum population and our area compared to all other, vis-a-vis when we see population density, China or US, we have very high concentration of population. We have very high percentage of youth. How do we meet the aspirations of the youth? We need to grow and we need energy. So these are three factors which I will emphasize have increased the importance of our own reliance on energy. It's not that we import, we can trade, but dependency should not be there. You know what is happening. One country is saying don't buy from the another country. And we are finding it difficult. How do we manage? The strength of any nation comes when it has choices in making decision and execute those choices. We find that our choices are being restricted by the countries. So the importance of increasing supplies of domestic energy is becoming very, very important. And we in the ministry are focusing that we increase our own exploration and production in the country. In order to facilitate that, we have taken a large number of policy decisions in last several years. What we are realizing is that total sedimentary area of the country, hardly 8 or 9% area is being worked on. We have more than 33 lakh square kilometer area, and we have just allotted only about more than 2 lakh square kilometer. The rest of the area we have to work on. And unless we have area, acreages, we can't find oil. It has to be searched. And as my colleagues, geologists will speak after me, they will explain that oil doesn't exist in any country unless you find it. And you will find it only if you search it. And if we are not searching, there's no question of finding oil. You see examples of all big discoveries. People had to make intensive efforts. Recent example you might be seeing of Guyana. The exploration was going on there for a time. Companies had spent a lot of money there. And you slightly go back in history, you will find in Saudi Arabia also. The companies had to spend a lot of money in searching oil. Our own example, Bombay High, people were saying India doesn't have resources. Mr. Sharma is here, he will testify to you. The people had declared India doesn't have anything. We are producing from there. We have Rajasthan, Bardmer fields are there. Many companies, including our own veteran ONGC, international companies, they had declared nothing is there. But a company found that, and this is one of our prolific fields. Recently, we have produced gas from Vindhyan Basin in Madhya Pradesh. We have oil and gas in West Bengal. 10 wells were drilled in 1950s in West Bengal. And out of 10 wells, 5 wells were gas bearing. Why these were not taken forward, it's a matter of history and academic interest. The only thing I am pointing out is that unless we explore, we will not find the resources. And as a result, we are accelerating how to explore more. Now, oil and gas is a very risky and capital intensive business. The government is coming up on making investment in collecting data. Data is the first thing for any company to enter. Our offshore areas, especially deep water areas, are unexplored. We have spent money in collecting data in Andaman basins. Geologists are saying that, yes, it could be one of the potential areas. We have just collected data in Andaman basin, and that data is being processed. Government has also decided that in next 2 years, we will collect all the data in offshore basins. Entire EEZ of the country needs to be explored. The government is financing this program. The tender is already floated. In next 2 years, we will collect all our data for offshore basins, entire EEZ. And then we have to explore it quickly. The window of opportunity for exploration is fast shrinking in view of the climate concerns. We have to quickly explore our resources. In order to attract the companies, make their investment less risk-free, and ensure that they are able to work effectively in India, we are focusing on ease of doing business. We have made a number of changes which are very important for companies. Our focus right now is how to increase the exploration. A lot of changes are taking place within DGH. National Data Repository, which is storehouse of all the data in the country, is being upgraded to cloud. So all the changes which we are introducing are aimed at attracting more companies, involving more companies, facilitating the companies to develop and adopt technologies. If we in the country work together in earnest and again believe that no, we can find oil and gas within our own country, apply technologies, use resources, involve all the people, I'm sure there is a lot of scope and we can become self-reliant in energy, at least to the extent that we are not beholden to other countries and we are in a position to make our own decisions. And I'm confident with the efforts with the industry is making, all of you are involved, we can make a effective change in producing oil and gas within the country. I think the more details, my colleagues are there, Chandrasekhar and other people are there. They are more veteran in explaining. I thought that let me just put a framework for the policy making process with this. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Amarnath. You laid the ground and gave us the background of the policy decisions taken already in the ministry. We are really encouraged to say that we are aligned to the situation and we will, the willpower being there, we will find a solution to go for self-reliance in the petroleum sector. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to inaugurate and give us the background on these. So now we'll move further and request Mr. Dr. Chandrasekharan, former Director General, former Director Exploration OIL, to please give his presentation. Dr. Chandrasekharan.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Good morning. Good morning to everyone, and respected all seniors. And I sincerely thank the IEF, especially Mr. Ashok Verma, for having me here to give a talk to the most erudite and scholarly people in the industry. So these are certain photographs which are taken by my colleagues in Oil India. This is to just to show you that Oil India is a very environment-loving company, and we are most conscious about the environment, and we honor all the rules and regulations. Now, a lot of things have been already told by Mr. Amarnath, the Additional Secretary. In fact, he has laid out a complete thing about what the government has done in the last few years. So what I'll do is, because this is a very, very senior people, and I'm not going to go into the details of too many things, but what I would definitely do is how to accelerate the pace of exploration and production in India. Let us call it APEX. So what I will do is, in the process, I think Dr. Shahi has already spoken much about this, and all of you, I don't need to talk about what energy is all about to a country like India, developing country like India. Energy growth is directly linked to the well-being and prosperity, not only India, entire globe. So for developing nations, the need for the reliable energy is much more fundamental. So also what Mr. Amarnath was trying to emphasize upon is that how to bridge this gap of the import and the indigenous production. So he has also made a point that a lot of policy initiatives have helped us in coming out with more area for under exploration, and I will very briefly touch upon those things now. Now, before going into the details of what I would plan to do today, see, this is a very old thing, but we take pride in saying that India in Northeast in Assam was the first discovery in the entire Asia after what was found in the Titus well, the famous Drake well. So this is the dig boy, so, and we started off beautifully. But I would like to also tell a point what Mr. Amarnath was just now saying. Like he said, he talked about the Bengal, he talked about the other areas. So in fact, after the dig boy discovery, there was more than 150 wells which were drilled. Many of them went dry, but people never gave their perseverance. And then we went ahead and then found more oil and gas in the country. Now, since then, what we have done is, 7 producing basins have been established so far. Over 2.7 million line kilometers of 2D data has been acquired. And then close to 0.9 million square kilometers of 3D data has been acquired. Over 20,000 wells have been drilled. 42 billion ton of equivalent oil and oil equivalent gas resources are estimated to be in the various sedimentary basins of India. And then over 11.1 billion tons of oil and gas have been established as in place oil and gas. And the ultimate reserves is of the order of 4.37 billion tons equivalent. And the reserves is 1.6. And we have already produced 2.7 billion ton equivalent. And we have the estimates, current estimates talk about 30 billion tons yet to find potential in this country. And what Mr. Amarnath was also referring to is, like, the total sedimentary area in this country is 3.365 million square kilometers, but hardly maybe around 0.3 million square kilometers is what is under active exploration. Though we make a distinction between what is active and what has been appraised. So, but as he rightly said, around 0.3 million square kilometers is only, or 0.35 million square kilometers is under active exploration. But still there is a huge gap between what the demand, what is the demand, and what we produce. So what are the companies doing? Are we doing enough? Are we doing enough to produce more oil and gas, find more oil and gas? Like if we see the the previous last 10 years development wells drilled in this country, what we can see is that it's on an average around 430 wells being drilled. And in fact, the trend is always on the higher side. It keeps moving up. And this only shows that the already discovered resources are being produced by various operators, because as the fields mature, the requirement of the per well productivity obviously goes down, and you have to drill more wells. But ultimately, what we are trying to plan, what we are planning is, or what we are trying to do is more production per well, and that is our objective. But there has been a beautiful trend of increase in the development wells, which shows that there is a concerted effort by all the operators to increase production. Now, on the other hand, let's look at the exploratory wells drilled in the country in the last 10 years. You can very clearly see that there is a downward trend. Like what used to be, all these data is from the DGH. So what we used to drill 10 years back was around 190 wells, exploratory wells, and the last year it was 115. And when we look at the development wells, there was an effect of COVID also last year, but nevertheless the development well drilling is on the rise, whereas the exploratory well is on the decline. Does this mean something? Does this mean that there is less interest in exploration? I think recently Mr. Ashok Verma also wrote a note that should we stop? No, I don't say that, but the trend shows that there is definitely a decrease in the exploratory wells drilled in the country. But the reason could lie somewhere else, because during the last 7-8 years, I think the NALP 9 was awarded in 2012, and subsequently there was no award of any exploration acreages. That's what Mr. Amarnath was emphasizing upon. There was no fresh acreage available for the companies to do further exploration and then drill exploratory wells. So that situation has changed, and I'm very confident that we are going to be drilling much more wells in the next coming few years. I'll talk about it subsequently. Now, so this obviously tells us whether there is an exploration exploitation trade-off. As I told, no. This is one very in thing in data analytics, because acquisition of new data, that is exploration, is expensive. But so can we go ahead with the decision that seems to be suboptimal for now and then avoid collecting new data? I will show that this is not the case, at least in exploration, because we need more data to make certain probability estimates and things like that. So, but as far as India is concerned, this I would submit that the exploration exploitation trade-off is still not working in the exploration, thankfully. And this is also what Mr. Amarnath was trying to tell. I will put it up in a different manner, that all of us in exploration, oil exploration, we all do a lot of probability analysis, like whether we will get oil and gas in a particular location, what is the probability, and things like that. So we extensively use Bayes' theorem. So the Bayes' theorem, which says that, like when an event B has occurred, then the posterior probability of A can be estimated. Here in this case, B is nothing but the data. The data is what is required for me to go into a new basin, a new play, or a new sub-basin. So as Mr. Amarnath was already, he told in the beginning that there is a lack of adequate data in sedimentary basins, and the seismic data, the geophysical data are required definitely to assess the prospectivity of the basins comprehensively. Otherwise, we will not be able to refine our models. We will not be able to, talk about the new basin opening efforts and things like that. So what the government has been doing in the last few years, in my opinion, there are many things the government has done. But in my humble opinion, there are two things which were of great importance. One was the National Seismic Program, and another is the resource reassessment. Then there are policies of OALP and the ER policy. But the National Seismic Program did a great job because new data was collected, new areas were opened up for exploration, and then the resource reassessment. What was done in 1994? Incidentally, I was part of both the resource assessment programs in 1994 and also in 2017. So both these programs, what it did to the industry is that the new data was made available to the companies, and then the resource reassessment, first time it was done through a 3D petroleum system modeling effort. So both these inputs embolden the operators to go ahead and then take more areas for exploration. Now, Dr. Reddy, Dr. Lakshma Reddy, and Dr. Anand Gupta are going to speak about the policies and things like that. But what I thought is this, I need to definitely show around 46,960 line kilometers of 2D seismic data was acquired by Government of India. Both ONGC and Oil India, we pitched in, and then we executed the whole program under the advice of DGH and MOPNG. So the entire Northeast was acquired by Oil India, and rest of India, 41,714 line kilometers was acquired by ONGC. And then this is what I was talking about, the resource reassessment of in 2017. Like this brought in a new paradigm. Like the earlier it was around 28 billion tons. Today it is 42 billion tons. There are debates about whether we talk about risk or unrest. But this is I have worked a lot on risk analysis and geology, petroleum geology. My point is, at the resource level, if you start risking the things, there can never be an interest in a particular area. So the risking and the techno-economics come to play at a prospect level, where we go ahead and then drill. We actually take a decision to drill and invest money. So till such time, it is always better to don't bring in those risk elements here. So what this 2017 estimates did was around 30 billion ton of YTF is estimated to be still available in the various basins. I will go on to say the various breakup of this and then how we address it in our pursuit of more oil and gas in future. Now, after these two main pillars, which have led to certain additional data, additional input, and additional knowledge, what I thought is around 6 to 7 rounds have been already completed in OALP. It is better to have just a small analysis of what did the operators do, what did the operators think, where are the blocks and things like that. So what I did is the total area, like this is what I was saying. One second. Yeah. So this is category 1 basin, and this is category 2, and this is category 3. Like if you see the trend, initially the category 1 basins, they were in the prime focus, because when the OALP 1 was there, only the resource reassessment study was available, and the NSP data was still not available. So what happened? The operators always go from known to the unknown. So the category 1 basins will always be the prime focus, and the major area which was taken was in OALP 1 was in category 1. But subsequently, when we go in the OALP 2 and 3 rounds, when some more seismic data in the form of NSP data came up, then there was some interest in the category 2 and also category 3 basins. So finally, when we look at the whole thing, around 204,000 line kilometers. Yeah. One second. Was acquired, and if you look at the total areas which have been taken now in the category 1 basins, where around 53% of the area of all the area awarded under OALP was in category 1, and category 2 35%, and category 3 is 12%. In my estimate, this is a very fair thing, because we need to the fundamental thing about the whole OALP or acreage award business is you need to find more oil and gas. At the same time, you need to explore more area. So this combination of or this proportion of the areas under 1, 2, 3, it's in fact good, and the initiatives of the government have truly helped in coming to the stage. Now, the next thing is the total number of wells which have been committed. So I showed you a graph which showed that there was a decline in the exploratory drilling trend. But when you look at the total number of wells which are committed by the various operators, it's going to be definitely the next 5 years, you're going to see definitely a big increase in the number of wells which will be drilled, and these will be true exploratory wells, meaning they are outside the currently producing areas. Now, there is one more interesting point which emerged from this analysis. See, the total 134 blocks have been awarded in 19 basins, and the estimated resources, but there were no blocks which were taken in 7 category 3 basins, and the total volumes or the resources which have been estimated in these basins is only 150 million tons. And it is also important to mention that out of these 7 basins, 6 basins were not at all studied because of lack of data. So this, what I would like to tell is the Government of India and the DGH sponsored studies like the resource reassessment, the NSP have definitely helped us in identifying the new areas and going ahead with exploration. So I'm very excited. The next 5 years, it's going to be a big time for the exploration in this country. Now, this is one trend. Another thing is the resource reassessment, which has given us a lot of insight into the various plays. What needs to be done is we need to very quickly understand, and what needs to be done by the operators also need to be talked. I'll make it slightly faster if it is. See, when we talk about the total 30 billion tons of yet to find resources in various basins, I'm not going to go and talk about all the basins. I will talk only about 2 basins, that too in a nutshell. Like I'll talk about KG and I'll also talk about Assam Shelf. Like KG, for example, this particular Paleogene, which is the Eocene Paleocene, play, the discovered is only 77 million tons, and the YTF is 3.5 billion tons. For people who have worked in KG basin will know that the 77 billion ton is the main producing play. This is the play which gives you a lot of production in KG basin, and there is a lot of this particular thing is about the high pressure, high temperature HPHT and tight reservoir. And when we come to the Assam Shelf, there is a good number of volume in the Paleogene, and the Oligocene in the Assam fold belt, the Renji, it is supposed to contain 1 billion tons. Honestly speaking, there is a lot of work to be done. So while we concentrate on the category 2 and category 3 basins, what I'm going to now propose is that a lot of work needs to be done on play-based exploration. Now, this is what, incidentally, this is what Mr. Amarnath was also talking about. I personally know many cases in ONGC, not only in ONGC, in the entire A, that this particular thing, kindly I request you to give attention. Like the first well which was drilled in 1956 went dry. This is for the Eocene play when we were producing the Tippenman barrels. Now, the second well was drilled in 1960, which also went dry, Nahagatia. The third well, it gave gas. So people were not very keen about producing gas, so that was not looked into. The fourth well also went dry, and the fifth well gave some gas. Finally, after 30 years, almost 25 years, in 1990, oil was struck. And I will show you, this is the extension of the play. This is the extension of the play today. This is and this play produces around 40% of the entire oil India's production today. So had we left it and had we not pursued it, we would have been in deep trouble today. And in fact, I would like to tell you that today, this year, Oil India has produced the maximum gas in history. And one more thing, like in Kaveri Basin also, the same thing had happened. In 1965, 70s, a lot of wells were drilled, parametric wells and structural wells, all went dry. There was a drilling holiday which was given. And after 10 years, we went and drilled some 9 kilometers southeast of that Karaikal well, and we found Narimanam, and rest is history. The Kaveri Basin is now this is the HPHT where the pressure is in KG basin, where the pressure is more than 10,000 psi and the temperature is more than 400, and there is a huge potential. And in fact, Oil India, ONGC, Kane, all of us have spent a lot of money on this. Like I think ONGC has spent close to $2 billion or even more than that, and Kane had drilled a very deep well for Eosin in Rava, which was one of the costliest and most complicated wells in the history of Kane history. And Oil India drilled a few wells. Each well was costing around 400 to 500 crores. But all of us are very certain that there is a lot of gas to be produced. It is only the tightness and the HPHT technology which needs to be properly employed. So again, in Assam Shelf also, there is a lot of things which needs to be done, but the depths are quite prohibitive and the cost is going to be high, pressures are going to be more, and these are the certain challenges which we need to, and this is the area where Brahmaputra river, and we have been always talking about the BRV, Brahmaputra riverbed, where there is a huge potential, but today we are not able to do due to so many reasons. Now, this is one point which also I would like to say that the shallower objectives are being addressed. In the last 40-50 years, we have been drilling in the shallower things, and increasingly, day by day, the depths are increasing, the cost is increasing, the complications are increasing. So, in future, it is going to be more challenging because the Oil India produces, I think I should be right, that the deepest producing field is being operated by Oil India at around 5,600 meters. We know what are the complications and the problems we face. And these will be, I will talk about these things while concluding. But sir, what Mr. Amarnath was also talking in his keynote address is about the 10 wells have been drilled in Bengal, dozens of wells were drilled in Kaveri, and dozens of wells were drilled in Assam. I told you 140 wells were drilled post Big Boy. Now, when you talk about rocket science, the success rate is much more higher now. It's more than 92-93%. Whereas in oil and gas, if you strike a 30% success rate, it's considered to be good. And in the development, around 80-90% is considered good. What happens is at the level of decision making, there is always a problem that if you go on giving drivers, then there is a benchmarking. Then they say, oh, you are going on drilling rivals. There is a success rate, and this needs to be distinguished between the near field exploration, already established play, versus the new play, new sub-basin, and the new basin. So this is my submission because all of us go through this. Now, this is one classic thing of we call him Magoon as father of petroleum system. He says at the sedimentary basin level or the petroleum system level, economics is not important. But while opening a play or a prospect, the economics is very important. With a lot of humility, my humble submission is I would like to modify it. Like at the play level, if we look at the economics, if I can make a statement that we will never be able to open up any place. We will not be able to drill deeper wells. We will not be able to open, highly complex wells. So this is my personal view. And now, to conclude, let me come to the conclusion now. There is a huge urgency. This word again, Mr. Amarnath used because there is an urgency. What is the urgency? Like there are a lot of talks. The COP26, the recent Glasgow summit, 2050 or 2070, whether it should be 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. There is a lot of disruption. And finally, I think India has been able to convey that 2070 we will come to somewhere close to net zero. So this means that the time for us is very limited, and we need to act very fast. So this is a very cliched statement by none other than he was Sheikh Ahmed Zaki Yamani, who was the energy minister of Saudi Arabia. He made a statement, and many people call it cliched, but I would say, being a geologist, I would definitely say that he said that the Stone Age didn't end for lack of stone, and the oil age will end long before the world runs out of oil. So what we need to do is the next 20-30 years, there has to be a lot of work done, and we need to be after exploiting the resources which are yet to be found, which have already been found. Now, I think all veterans are here. you will definitely agree with me in this particular thing. Though we talk about more than 100 years of oil and gas history in this country, I would treat 1970s as watershed years. Like even there was a reference to Bombay High. I have personally worked in Bombay High, and so the major discoveries like Bombay High, Panna, Mukta, Baseen, Tapti, they were all discovered during 70s and 80s, and Gandhar, and then the opening up of Mumbai offshore, KG, Kaveri, Tripura, Kachar, all these things happened during 1970s to 80s. And in fact, after 1985, there is no basin which has been converted into a category 1 basin. Now ONGC has come out with the beautiful news that Saurashtra, then Vindhyan, and then Bengal, all these 3 basins are in the verge of becoming commercially producing basins. Now, if I go back to this slide and talk about 2070, I would say 1970 to 2070, if you take a 100 years period, what happens is we are in the middle. 2020, incidentally, we are in the middle. And the last 50 years, we have been very fortunate because it was all greenfield exploration. It was greenfield development, and those fields we have been nicely producing. But what to do in the next 50 years before we come to 2070? So my humble submission would be 2020 to 2035. The focus should be completely on exploration, new basin opening, the new place opening, and tapping the IEF. And from today up to 2070, what we need to simultaneously do is focus on technology, focus on UR, and maximizing the recovery factor, and then focus on unconventional also. So how to go about it? I will talk in terms of 3 points. That is exploration, and this is also the next point. They reduce the timeline in granting PML. This is also a point which is being discussed at ministry, because they have always been telling, hey, when will you convert your fields into PML? So next is the enhanced production and incentivize UR further, right? So first, let me tell what I can do before asking what the government can do, what the others can do for me. What as an operator I can do, like I need to prioritize the players in category 1 and 2 basins, as there has to be a concerted effort. It's not that we are not doing. Both ONGC, Oil India, and Vedanta, all of us are doing this. But what I need to do is, if I take an estimate of how many wells have I drilled in the last 10 years, the numbers may not be very, very appealing. So draw a risk reward profile for prioritized place with timelines. So that means most of these areas will be again in the petroleum mining leases areas. So there is no problem of the timeline being given by the government. But what I'm saying is, as an operator, I have a responsibility to do this. Formulate a play-based drilling program from 2020 to next 5 to 7 years. I need to take up at least a few risky wells every year, targeting the new place. So what the government and the DGH can consider now. This is what I have been repeatedly telling, and the exploration phase in India is very, very limited. It's 3 years. I've been repeatedly requesting, kindly make it into a, because you need, if you need the fresh seismic data, you need to acquire data. The decision to drill wells is a major decision, and then complete GNG analysis has to be done. So the time frame may kindly be increased from 3 to 7 years. And Northeast, we have been repeatedly, facing a lot of issues due to logistics, due to environment and things like that. And this is also under consideration by the DGH and ministry. And where there are rapid elevation changes, there you need to give some additional time and assist with all clearances and provide incentives. One point which I would like to tell, which can be done only by the government and not, we can definitely do. I have personally done this. Engagement with the states who do not allow you to do exploration. Engagement with the states like Nagaland and Tamil Nadu. Now, it has to be told to all the people, all the stakeholders, look, the time is very limited, and I have been slightly successful in doing this, but a lot of things have to be done. And then, like as I told, I think I may be corrected. I'm not very sure, but I think I'm very close to 4,500 meters and below. There is virtually no production except in Mechaki in Assam today. So exploratory wells with this, what I told, there will be always a hesitation from the operator's side to drill deep wells because this is going to cost me definitely more than $20 million or $15 million in onshore. And this is we will be focusing more on the development wells of shallower level wells, but we will never tap the. So these can be given some benefit. The HPHT ultra shallow water, this is basically for KG basin, which needs to be given a lot of fiscal benefits. And this is one more point which I've been repeatedly telling is about the ring fencing of MWP wells around the contract area. What happens is the government has stated many times unequivocally that the government is not keen in collecting penalty. The government is wanting to get more exploration done. So if based on the geological analysis, if a particular operator doesn't want to drill a particular well, let him be allowed to drill in other areas and then offset these wells with the MWP. Now, coming to the reduction in timeline from, this is a time frame which I have drawn, like PL to PML. This is what one of the main points which we discussed in various forum about how to reduce the timelines between the PL to PML. Now, when you see here, the discovery, we need to notify it in 7 days, and then the notification of discovery under Article 10.1, 120 days. Then I'll have to talk about the potential commercial interest. Then I'll have to submit an appraisal program, then intent, then approval of FDP, then PML grant, then commercial. So the whole thing roughly takes around 6.5 to 7 years. What I'm saying is, at least for the OALP blocks, what I would say is, OALP, there is no cost recovery mechanism. There is nothing which nobody else is, it is all completely the investment of the operator. So there is no cost recovery, there is no nothing. So if the operator is convinced that the discovery can be put on production, like let the operator give an undertaking that I will undertake a fast track and let us cut down all these processes and then come straight to PML grant. So when he notifies the discovery, if the operator says that yes, my discovery is good enough and I can put it on production, and there is no need for any cost recovery mechanism coming here. It's completely a revenue sharing mechanism. So everybody would be happy in cutting. But the operator has to give an undertaking that yes, I will do it. Now, next is this is about the ERPC. Why I'm talking about all these things, these are certain things which the DGH and the government can consider with respect to the data which is available. This is also from the DGH only annual report. The current EOR policy says that you would be getting some benefit if the recovery factor is 60% in oil and if it is 80% for gas. Now, the current production level is around 22%. The global recovery percentage of India is around 22%. With the current production and current reserves, the RBP ratio reach 29% is going to be 16 years in case of oil. That means in the next 10 years, I would not be able to derive any benefit out of this policy. And in case of gas, it is even more. It is 37 years to reach 60% also. So there the limit is 80%. So my only humble request is please bring it down to some levels which can be achieved by the operators, and then they can really reinvest this money, whatever benefit they get out of the policy, into exploration, so that it will have a better investment environment in the country. So then there are certain things like conventional hydrocarbons. This also needs to be given, and then the ceiling on waiver on cess. Like there are two things. One is about the capex, which the entire benefit would be capped at the capex, and there is also thing that $80 above $80 you will not be getting. So once the entire money what he can claim is already capped up to the capex, there is no need to put these sort of things. This is my coming to the end of the presentation. The road ahead is in my thing, like it is EQ. In fact, E squared is to intensify the exploration and extensive UR, and with a keen eye on environment. So this is what I would say. In fact, I didn't talk about many of the problems what we face in the northeast and things like this. The photographs what you're seeing is the well site or the rig site on the top of a hill in Mizoram, and this is Nagaland. And we shall not cease from exploration. And the end of all our exploring will be where we start, no place for the first time again. This is a famous quote from Eliot. And thank you so much. I once again thank you for giving me this opportunity, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekharan sir. You really gave a very exhaustive presentation on this scenario, and lot of hopes you have established that we are on the right path, and we will definitely increase the explorations. Thank you very much for a very, very exhaustive and very knowledgeable presentation you have made. May I now request Dr. Lakshma Reddy, Additional DG Exploration DHG, to kindly take the floor.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, all the dignitaries and my seniors who are there on the board, like Verma sir, and then R.S. Sharma sir, I can see, and Chandrasekhar sir. A lot of senior people are there who are rich experience in energy sector and oil and gas sector. And because of the Black Swan events, which Amarnath sir was quoting, and because of the COVID situation, we have moved on from physical events to online events. And I've been asked to speak on exploration scenario in India with a focus on OLP. I would like to, articulate some of the history of the oil and gas in India and how it has evolved in India, what efforts have been made. All those things I will be speaking in my presentation, and let me share my presentation, sir. As I said, I'll just deal with the exploration scenario in India with focus on OLP. As you all know, oil and gas story in India is near about 167 years old, and it has been progressing steadily from that time. And oil has been discovered in the northeast region of the country, and it almost coincides with the oil and gas story of the world. And it was coincidentally discovered as it was, railway line was being dug there. And then during that time, oil was smelt from the skin of the elephant, which was pulling out the logs. And then from there, oil exploration has started in a small way, and it has been moved on. And initially, it was with some of the private companies which were doing, and subsequently, Oil India and ONGC also came into existence with, part of the oil and gas division in the GSI. And then we moved on from the nominated national oil companies have been exploring for a long. And then why we need energy? India is basically energy growth is there and demand is there. And then my slide is not moving. Yeah. So India is a growing economy. My slide has moved, sir, for everybody to vision. Yeah, India is a growing economy with strong fundamentals, and it's ranked in 63 in EODB in 2000. And India's economy is almost projected at 9% because of these Black Swan event. There could be a little bit of change. And it is also a fifth largest recipient of FDI inflows because of the investor-friendly policies in the country, and a government who listens and who modifies the policies and who reforms the policies for attracting the investment. And it is the third largest basically consumer of primary energy after US and India. And it is the sixth largest global economy, and 100 billion USD planned to be spent for oil and gas infrastructure. So all these things which we are doing, the India aims to become $5 trillion economy by 2025. India is, as I said, India is presently the third largest consumer of primary energy after USA and China. And world over, the share in global energy as of now, we have about 6%, but which is, bound to move to, 12% by 2050, because other countries maybe, as our rural mobility and increases, and then aspirations of India increases, then this global energy demand, which we need to cater, is going to be increased. and increase in per capita energy consumption is also going to be substantial. And with energy transition, world over, energy consumption, oil consumption may come down, but with respect to India, it is going to increase. Both it is the same in the case of gas also, it is going to increase. And because lot of scope is there for the demand growth in India, and the quality of living is increasing in the country, and then the rural mobility is increasing. And even if the decarbonization, net zero, all those things are going to go, but with the energy transition taking place, of course, apart from energy transition in India may eat into the basically demand growth. It is not exactly going to cut down on oil or gas consumption. How, as I was mentioning earlier, how hydrocarbon exploration in India has evolved. Like way back in 1947, when we got the independence, we were producing only 0.5 million tons of oil. And when Keshav Malviya was the minister of oil and gas, and with Russians, we could discover the oil. And that time the vision was to produce 5 million tons. Today, if we are producing more than 30 million tons of oil and 50 BCM of gas, and near about 50 BCM of gas, it is not an easy task to achieve this. It is not that we have not made the progress in India with respect to oil and gas. Yes, we have made a substantial progress. 0.5 million tons of oil producing to near about 30 million tons, and then gas also we are moving towards the gas-based economy. This is not a easy task to be done, where every multinational has said in the country, the country is devoid of the hydrocarbons. And as Mr. Amarnath sir and the Chandrasekharji was telling, oil is not there until you find it. It is wrong to say without doing a proper exploration, there is no oil. That's what was done. The scanty exploration was done earlier. Otherwise, we have 3.36 million square kilometer of sedimentary basin area. And to unlock this potential, to unleash this potential, the hydrocarbon exploration policy has been evolved. And in the year 1980 to 1995, it was the beginning of the deregulation, and several rounds were held both in pre-NELP and NELP regime and field regime. And it has led to 28 producing fields and 28 exploration blocks offered, including to private players. And from 1997 to 2012, liberalization of E&P sector took place, in almost coinciding with the economic liberalization of the country, which has been, catapulted the growth into a exponential way in India. And we could see basically the comfort of living or the living standards increasing from the previous days to now. And we are emerging to be one of the global powers in respect to various areas, both in IT. In the case of IT, we are almost a leader in the world. And similarly, oil and gas also, we are strive to become, at least to achieve the self-sufficiency. But demand growth is so fast that we are not in keeping pace with in respect to the production here. And from 1997 to 2012, as I mentioned, the liberalization of E&P sector took place. 9 rounds of NELP and 4 CBM rounds are held, and 254 exploratory and 30 CBM blocks have been given. And then in 2014, new domestic gas pricing guidelines were given, because there was a lot of problem with regarding to the gas pricing mechanism. And further liberalization of the sector took place with various policy reforms like hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy, discovered small field build round, operationalization of NDR, open acreage licensing, revenue sharing model, and pricing guidelines for difficult gas and single license for all type of hydrocarbon, and reassessment of hydrocarbon. And this is the way hydrocarbon exploration has evolved. And 2018 and 2020-21, we are now with 2 bid rounds of OLP, which is there and which is yet to be awarded these blocks. And DSF round, 3rd round is on. And then we also have CBM round, special CBM round, which is also in place. This is the snapshot of details of various bid rounds which have been held. As I mentioned, in 1980, we took the pre-NELP exploration. 1992, we had pre-NELP field round. And from 1999 to 2010, we had several rounds of bidding rounds under new exploration licensing policy. But there was a hiatus between 2010 to 2018, with respect to, there was a need was felt from moving from the production sharing contract regime to revenue sharing contract regime. At the policy evolution, there was, in geological terms, I would call it as an unconformity or the hiatus between 2010 and 2018, sorry, for about near to 7 to 8 years, there was no award of the exploration acreages. If you really see the exploration acreages awarded from 2016 to 20 itself, how many blocks have been awarded? You can see substantial investment has been committed and several blocks have been brought in. Ideally speaking, 1/3 of the sedimentary basins should be always under exploration. Exploration is an iteration process. Never we can say exploration has been completed, can be completed in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. It is a process. You have to learn from the failures and you have to go into an iteration process, and then we need to deploy the latest advanced exploration tools and explore further. It's not that once you fail, it is not, you are not going to succeed henceforth. It is a high risk, high reward game, oil and gas exploration, which need to be done. As I indicated, if you see, after the open acreage licensing program was launched and the 5 rounds have been completed where the blocks have been awarded, and 6th and 7th round blocks are also approved by the government. It is only in the mere process of signing the RSC by the respective winners of the bidding rounds. What has been done to evolve exploration policy? The government of India has brought in various E&P policy frameworks, both by dealing with the organizations like PP and then AOGO and respective operators who have been operating. They have brought out to several ideas to the table, and some of the ideas have been considered in evolving these exploration policy. Like, I said in 2014, domestic natural gas pricing policy has been brought in. 2015, discovered small field policy has been brought in. And in 2016, based on the recommendations of the Kelkar committee and earlier whatever report was submitted, based on that, to apprise sedimentary basins and flagship programs were launched, like a national seismic program with a budget of near about the 3,000 crores. This national seismic program has been raised recently. It is almost concluded, and 42,000 line kilometers of seismic 2D seismic data has been acquired. And GIPIP codification has been made. What is that? Good industry, petroleum industry practices. And DSF bid round 1 was launched in 2016. And 2017, a national data repository was established, and early monetization in CPM blocks and other blocks also has been brought in. Hydrocarbon resource reassessment study was also done to identify what is the resource potential in various places, as Chandrasekhar sir has dealt with various play-based exploration and how it has been done. He was also associated with this project. He has anyway brought out salient points of that. And similarly, then open acreage licensing program was brought in. What is open acreage licensing program? Basically, we are giving the operator to carve out their own block and carry out the exploration. Earlier in PSC round, the government was carving out the blocks and giving to the various operators. That has been got away, and both from PSC to RSC regime we have moved, and we have given the freedom to operator to study the data on India and then carve out his own blocks. And then in 2018, enhanced recovery policy was brought on, and DSF bid round 2 was brought in. And 19 again, OLP bid round 2 and 3 has been carried out, and OLC policy reform, some of the problems which they were facing in earlier bid round of OLP has been reformed, and a dispute resolution committee was established to bring a faster solution to the litigation which are happening. And then similarly, production enhancement scheme has been brought in, where the existing fields where the production was declining. So a technology can be brought in, and investment can be brought in, and delta incremental oil can be produced from these producing fields. A scheme was brought, production enhancement scheme, and similarly OLP bid round C4 was also done. And in 2020, natural gas marketing reforms have been carried out, and to ease of, as a part of ease of doing business, self-certification of PSC processes has been brought in, and OLP bid round 5 has been brought in. Now we know OLP bid round, and in 2021 DSF bid round 3 has been announced, and the special CBM bid round has been announced, and OLP bid round 6 and 7 has been launched. And now in 2022, we hope to, as far as the OLP round 6-7 is concluded, and these blocks will be awarded. And with respect to DSF bid round 3 and CBM bid round, the blocks will be awarded in in this year itself. The sedimentary basin, as I was mentioning, it's about 3.36 million square kilometers which need to be explored, and out of which in mainlands and islands it is about 3.29, and exclusive economic zone it is 2.36 million square kilometers, and these put together it's become combines to about 3.36 million square kilometer, which is spread out, and it has been indicated in the yellow patch in the India map, where exactly the rest of the white area is basically a granitic terrain or the metamorphic terrain in the geological parallels. Where this yellow pattern is there, this is to the extent of where the sedimentary basins are there in the basically. And in the, if you see the right side of the map where it has been indicated, what are the deep water areas, what are the shallow water areas, what is the sedimentary basin distribution in on-land part also. And the quantum of the geographical area with respect to on-land part, offshore part, shallow water part, deep water part is also indicated here. So this is the potential which we see. Indian sedimentary basins have been based on the commercial aspect, has been categorized into 3 categories. What are that? Category 1, basins are commercially producing hydrocarbons. In category 2, basins have discoveries but yet to be commercially developed. In category 3, basins have no discovery yet, but less explored. In these, there are 2 basins which have been where the hydrocarbon discoveries were made, both in the Kutch and Saurashtra, and Vindhyan Basin and Bengal Basin. So these category 1 and category 3 basins, as per the Gazette notification earlier, has been categorized based on the commercial production. It is not a geological categorization of the basins. As you explore more and discover the hydrocarbons, these number of basins moving from from category 3, it gets upgraded. In some cases, it might upgraded straight away to category 1 if you start the production. And when it comes to uprising the area, as per the specification which has is spelled out in Kelkar committee report and in the area uprised, so far we have uprised 57% of the area has been uprised in deep water and 21% in shallow water and inland area 20%. And what is the area explored? If you see in terms of that, in the deep water we have explored only 28%, and on land part we have explored 41%, and shallow water we have explored only 31%. As of now, we'll say only 8 to 10% of the basin area explored through drilling, and 49% of the basins is uprised through survey and drilling. Deep water is largely uprised. This is the place where where explorative wells were drilled, and it is being indicated along the coast as well as on the onshore, and both in the Andaman area as well as our mainland area and offshore and shallow water and the deep water areas up to the EEZ. This is a snapshot of, I don't go into details into the thing basin prospectivity and with various basins with a geological map and what is the area of the map, and then all those things are there. Each basin, I will say 56,000 square kilometer of area is there in the Assam Arakan Basin. Mesir Sorkra lakes in the Naga Thrust with potential shallow place, and good number of oil fields are located, and 8 places all proven with plastic reservoirs with occurrence of basement fractures in places like Borola and all, and 7 places with Oligocene being prominent, and restoration of complex structure is the key here. Basically, even when you get the seismic imaging in the thrust areas, basically deciphering the geological structures from the seismic reflections becomes a challenge here. You need advanced interpretation tools to really exactly locate where the accumulation of the hydrocarbon has taken place. But we have been making the discoveries. Small gas pools have been discovered, and in some places the standard gas pools have been discovered. This is being monitored subsequently. And when it comes to Bengal Purnia, after a lot of trying, after drilling a lot of dry wells, we have recently succeeded in the Ashok Nagar case. It has an estimated in place volume of 828 million tons of oil equivalent, and the basin is uprised to the extent of 76% in terms of what the seismic data which you have acquired and the wells you have drilled. But these need to be, as I mentioned, the exploration is an iteration process. Now we got, hydrocarbon habitat has been proved with the Ashok Nagar discovery. We need to chase that particular place to further explore in the basin and discover. I remember during the initial period of my career, there used to be one geologist with Rai Chaudhary. He always used to say, Bengal is floating on oil. Bengal is floating on oil. That is the vision which he had. It doesn't mean that in a literal sense which you are telling, that now we need to prove his vision right. Probably we need to do further exploration and locate exactly the locales where the accumulation of hydrocarbon has taken place. And it has this basin has a significant potential in Pliocene clay. Biogenic gas is expected in shallow stratostructural entrapment and proximal area to inch zones remains to be the exploration targets. Similarly, is the Mahanadi area where extensive exploration work was done by Oil India, GSPC, ONGC, and several rounds of seismic has been carried out. Wells were drilled, and it has a lot of data within it, and the gas discovery has been made. But only thing is difficult place which are there. And similarly, Krishna Godavari Basin, I will not go into the thing. Yeah, I just made the slide, so probably thinking of I will have a lot of time to speak and on each and every basin. I will just rush through these basins. So coming to the focus mostly on the OLP front and how DGH is doing to promote exploration in the country. And this is the Krishna Godavari Basin. It has a lot of undiscovered potential and already discovered potential. We have major fields which are producing there, both in the offshore and onshore also. And this undiscovered volume is still needs to be produced. There are two sayings. One saying is, oil is not there until you discover it. And it is also, there is another saying, you will find more barrels of oil where it has already been discovered. See, if you really see the Bombay High, when it is discovered, we will thought that, Bombay High oil will be over in a matter of 20 years. We have discovered additional barrels of oil within the Bombay High field. And that is the reason now, even today, it is producing. Whatever the declining which is take place, we have also compensated to the declining one, and we have also added the additional barrels. That is the reason, for to a great extent, we could manage the production from the Bombay High. It is not that the different place within the producing basins also the additional volumes are added, and that's how the fields tend to produce and maintain the production levels. And in Andaman area, Andaman is also area where you have potential, and you are near to the hydrocarbon prolific basins, both along the coast of Myanmar, Malaysia, and Indonesia. We are also trying to, for a long time, this area was no-go area, and we are making all our efforts to go ahead and then do the exploration in this Andaman basin also. Similarly, Kaveri offshore, we have the potential. Onshore, we are already producing. Offshore, we have to produce, and we need to intensify exploration in Kaveri basin also. And it has the 9 place with basement, Jurassic, Cretaceous, and Pliocene basin, and we have the potential to explore. Similarly, Kerala Konkan, we have drilled several wells, we feel further, but sub-basaltic imaging is required in this area to really realize the potential in these hydrocarbon. Saurashtra Kutch, similarly, here also, recent success after perseverance of exploration in Kutch, Saurashtra, the gas was discovered after drilling near about 2 kilometers of thick basaltic lava flow below which gas was discovered. Now the infrastructure has to develop there with the gas pricing coming up. These projects may become economical and to produce further and to intensify exploration in Kutch Saurashtra area and to produce below the basalts. And similarly, Mumbai offshore, maximum discovered in place is there. Still 50% of is estimated total in place. Still it is there. It is to be only further brought out, and the recovery factor have to be improved. There are certain geologists who still imagine there is another Bombay High in the Bombay High. What it means is you need to discover new oil in the old fields. There are several horizons. There are several places where it is entrapment has taken place. We need to explore further. Probably, a de novo exploration has to be carried out in the fields where it is already producing. So that with that, what happens is leftover or maybe, undiscovered place or the map place where the potential has not been realized, we can bring in the oil which is locked in that to basically to surface and add to the kitty of already existing reserves. And discovery in shallower place of the deep continent itself is a new phenomena which is happening. We are moving into the fringe areas of the Bombay High. We are also discovering, and the new places are getting opened up in Bombay High. So there is a still lot of undiscovered potential is there, and that need to be realized. If you draw an analogy, we can consider it as a super basin. Within the super basin, you have several, we need to find out the new horizons where the accumulation of hydrocarbon has been. Cambay Basin is one of the oldest basin where the hydrocarbon accumulation has been found quite early in the oil and gas story of India, and we have been producing from the Ankleshwar, Mehsana, Ahmedabad, and it still has a lot of potential. Basically, we need to again, deploy the new exploration tools and find out where the accumulation has been taking place. And even in the recent OLP rounds, also certain blocks which have been taken, which is also, people are discovering oil in the new fields and deploying the out-of-box thinking and deploying the out-of-box interpretation, this being done. And similarly, Rajasthan, we have one of the largest field which has been discovered. Shell, which was doing a exploration after drilling successive dry wells, they went off. But in a small company like Kane came in and discovered the thing. That proves, you should not get discouraged with the failures. The exploration needs perseverance. Exploration is an iteration process. We need to continue. We need to learn the lessons from the failures and move on to understand, to avoid those mistakes, what has been done. Maybe a new out-of-box thinking has to be brought in and interpretation has to be brought in and discover the oil field. So we were all looking at the deeper part of the basin. In this case, what has been done? Ultimately, the biggest field in the on land has been discovered in the marginal parts of the sedimentary basin. Within all these years, we have been doing scanty exploration, but with a focused exploration, with acquisition of data under NSP, new leads were discovered, and ONGC has carved out the blocks. And recent discovery in Hatta 3 well in Indian, wherein 62,000 cubic meters of gas flowed per day, and which indicates the hydrocarbon presence is there in the basin. Only we need to find out. And what exactly for this exploration? What is the fulcrum for this exploration to be carried out further? That is the establishment of National Data Repository. Lot of legacy data was there with the national oil companies and the private companies, and legacy data, and subsequently on the several rounds, the new data was acquired, and the new data is being acquired, and all this data was scattered here and there to bring it to a single location and showcase it to the potential investors, so that to reduce their geological risk, National Data Repository was established. It was established in 2017 in DGH premises. NDR hosts the country's complete centralized ENP database of all sedimentary basins. All bidding of acreages under HELP policy and DSF policy, as well as now through NDR, it is done. It holds both physical data rooms for data weaving, evaluation of acreages and blocks, and recently for DSF round, we have created a virtual data room also. Subsequently, we are trying to make it into a complete cloud-based thing, so that you can sit in the Houston, also look into the Indian sedimentary basin data. NDR, it almost functions like basically a tourism promotion board. Why you might be wondering why I am mentioning tourism promotion board. We are trying to create a window into Indian sedimentary basin and take the potential investors of oil and gas to take a peek view into the sedimentary basins, where then that is the area where it attracts more into the basically tourism into the sedimentary basins. Once you come, obviously you gets attracted, then you become a permanent resident there to further explore the oil and gas. The companies can connect through this NDR portal and can view, analyze and buy the data at a nominal cost. It is literally free. A seismic data which is $4,000, $5,000, which is cost to acquire a 1 line kilometer of seismic data. It is being given to the potential investor $1 per line kilometer. It is what many people are selling in the industry. It has to be made open free. But really speaking, when you open it, it doesn't have value. And to cater to the really serious investors, it becomes difficult. That is the reason it is free only. Literally speaking, $1 is like just a token money which is given, and to eliminate the non-serious players. As you see here in the map, the country has been divided into 1 minute by 1 minute grid, and the potential investors can look into the NDR and carve out his own block, and then look into the data and purchase the data which is required, and then decide about to use his intellectual capability to interpret and assess the potential, and he can carve out his own blocks, provided that area is under the open acreage, and that area can be taken and expressing the EOI. What is available on the NDR? You have lot of data actually. It's a data magnitude which is available is very much. 2.978 million line kilometers of 2D seismic data and 0.96 million square kilometers of 3D seismic data, and well log and data near about 20,000, more than 20,000 wells, well log and log data is there, and well reports are there. What is well reports? This is the dry well analysis and why the reports and what has been observed in these wells. These reports were made, those 42,000 reports are there. Number of companies which are registered on the NDR as of now is 303. NDR is in a transition to the state-of-the-art technology for virtual data room visualization, as I mentioned earlier. The data shared by NDR, 256 registered companies are there, more than 800 users are there, and we have been constantly delivering. People are buying the data, they are looking, they are also interpreting the data, and it is being supplied to several people there. And government has funded two flagship programs in order to enhance the data capability. National Seismic Program, and based on the leads available, several in the OLP bid rounds, the carved out, and campaign is also now being extended to offshore area in Andaman Basin. In Andaman Basin, recently we have acquired 22,500 line kilometer of data in the no-go area, which has been demarcated by Department of Space, dealing with the ISRO and Department of Space, and in a coordinated manner, this seismic data has been acquired. We are also now contemplating to completely acquire the seismic data until EEZ. Why EEZ? Because you have the right to economically exploit the resources which are available within the EEZ. With this, keeping that in mind, we are also trying to cover the areas where it has not been covered, to see whether the sediment coverage is there or not there. And in the map, if you see the lines where the data has been acquired, several basins where less explored basins, NSP data was acquired there actually, because other prolific producing basins operators anyway have been acquiring the data. We just focused where the data was not acquired to create a basically window into these sedimentary basin, and several leads were established. Even if one discovery is made, people might say 3,000 crores has been spent, what has been, even one discovery is made, all this money becomes peanuts in the if you look into the valuation of this one discovery, one big discovery which we achieved. And we have a lot of to find research potential, and the resource has to be converted. That is a big exercise where the resources are required, and based on the hydrocarbon resource potential which has been estimated 42 billion tons of oil equivalent. Of course, in certain corners people have doubts with regarding to padding up the resources and all those things, but these are the estimates, certain estimates based on the petroleum system modeling. It has been estimated. Some places analogy was used. Basically, the factors we assume to calculate these resources is going to be changed. We have a discovered potential of 12 billion tons of oil. This is, I'm just quoting the figures as per the report which is available. And out of that, and you have still undiscovered potential of 29 billion tons of oil equivalent, which is there undiscovered. So from the discovered, if you put a recovery factor of 35%, you had estimated ultimate recovery of 4.2 billion tons oil equivalent, which was there. So what exactly, what you need to produce more, you need to improve the recovery. So far, we have recovered 2.6 billion tons of oil equivalent. We are still have 1.6 billion tons of oil equivalent. With the present rate of production, we are still going to last for 17 to 18 years. That doesn't mean that we are going to end. I'm sure we are going to discover more and more oil and gas in India. Only thing is we need to intensify exploration, as Mr. Chandrasekhar was telling. And every geologist in the country will tell the same thing. That is the thing. Oil is found in the mind of geologists. Similarly, we have a grand vision with respect to the oil. So much of sedimentary basin area, so much of sediments is there, so much of offshore area is there. How we are not able to find the oil and gas? What is required is intensified exploration. That is what is the thing. We are also examining into the area where certain points which have been pointed out by Chandrasekhar. With we have limited exploration, but government had a thought earlier. There is a acreage holding is taking place. people are just taking the exploration acreage and sitting on that. We need to give the tight timelines. That is the reason exploration period has been reduced to 3 years. It is not with any discouraging and all. Anyway, government is always open to look into the issues which have been flagged by the operators and this thing. And from undiscovered also, we can always add to the kitty of discount as the chances of success. This is where the exploration is required, and we need to unlock the potential from it to find potential. And of late, we have asked all the operators to give a PRMS confirmed reserves reporting. PRMS standard of resource reporting depicts extent of uncertainty in subsurface data and status of maturity of resources. PRMS reserves classification is not based on the geological science or something like that. It is mostly the reserves which are there in conformity based on the increasing chances of commerciality, basically. If a oil price reaches $150, the kitty of reserves increases, because that is the area where you commercially you can exploit more. If the oil price goes down to 40, obviously the reserves kitty will come down, and that will get added into the contingent resources. So the PRMS classification is basically for the stock market purpose, basically for the investment banker to invest in an oil and gas company. That is the reason we are also asking, we are adopting to the PRMS standards, and so that exact evaluation of the potential of the company can be done, and then the funding and investment potential can be brought in from the outside to put into this exploration area, because where hydrocarbons can be brought to the surface. Exploit the results through improved and enhanced recovery, and convert contingent resources into the reserves, basically through various development strategies and various exploitation strategies. Hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy, this has been evolved from PSC regime to RSC regime. A policy has been brought out, and the bid rounds under open acreage licensing program has been carried out. Basically, what is this health policy objectives? To increase exploration activities, attracts domestic and foreign investment in unexplored, unallocated areas of sedimentary basins, enhance domestic production of oil and gas from the existing fields, promote ease of doing business. We at DGH constantly striving to evolve and bring in more and more EODB processes, so that there will be ease of doing business, ease of doing the thing. And of late, it has been reformed DGH. We have become more approachable, and we have changed our attitude little bit of from the a sort of regulator to facilitator. Now we are terming ourselves to be a facilitator. So what are the main features of health regime? A single license both for conventional and unconventional hydrocarbon. Earlier, unconventional hydrocarbon exploration was not allowed, but only conventional was being done. But here it is allowed. Open-ending licensing program allows carving blocks by bidders studying data at the National Repository and submission of EOS. Fiscal regime, I think we have one of the best fiscal regime in the country. Transition from cost recovery mechanism to revenue sharing mechanism. Low royalty rates and concessional royalty rates, and basically you have pricing and marketing freedom. Exploration rights on all retained area for full contract area. Bidding specific to basin category. What I mean to say is no revenue share in category 2 and category 3 basins. Looking into this aspect, we are still not upgraded the basins like Bengal Basin and Vindhyan Basin and Kutch Basin to the upgraded one to bring in more investment, because the incentives have to continue in category 2 and category 3. I know I am taking a lot of time, but being a exploration, a little bit, time I require, it's almost getting over. And you have a graded royalty structure and royalty rates for oil and gas, and royalty rates are different for on land area, shallow water area, deep water area, ultra deep water area. If you see difficult wise, shallow water royalty rate is bit more, deep water it is less, ultra deep water it is still less. And the concessional royalty is also based on the maturity of the basin. It has been fixed. Category 1 basin 10% concession, and category 2 basin 20%, category 3 basin 30%. Incentives for early production, early monetization policy has been brought out, and an incentive has been announced to monetize the discovered fields. And basically, we are also announcing the incentives for offshore exploration, reduced royalty rates, and incentives for gas and CBM 2% reduced royalty for on-land blocks. And for category 1 basin, LRP, HRP has been indicated. And as I mentioned, category 2 and 3 basins, there is no revenue sharing mechanism. Only in case of a windfall gains, then the royalty and taxes are applied here in this category 2, 3 basins. And evaluation criteria is basically more work program oriented evaluation rather than the other thing. If you see the weightage which has been given for work program, why work program? Because more and more exploration has to required in the sedimentary basin to unlock the potential in these areas to bring down the geological risk in these areas. So a lot of weightage has been given to work program, and the revenue share, it is only 30% is there in category 1 basin, and 0% as I mentioned in category 2 and 3 basin. Similarly, originator gets UI, as I said, it is a complete year-round process which goes on every 4 months. A cycle is there for expressing the UI, and originator will get 5% additional marks for this. And then OLP breed process is a transparent process. It is being done. And help journey so far, what we have done, the 134 blocks have been awarded. There is a committed investment of $3.13 billion US dollars has been committed. And now window is opened after 31st March. And as 8th UI window is open as of now. And we have almost completed up to 7 rounds of OLP. This is the snapshot of blocks which have been awarded under various OLP bid rounds, and the investment which has been promoted, and the work program which has been indicated. It is being constantly monitored the progress of the exploration in these blocks which have been given. And of course, I have operator-wise how the progress is being made, what amount of the seismic data has been acquired, 2D seismic data and 3D seismic data. It has been pictorially depicted in these slides. And then how many wells have been drilled, how many wells have been committed in each OLP round, and it is being given. Other incentives which are being announced is ER policy, hydraulic fracking and acid fracking shall be considered to encourage basically technology induction into the thing. IOR policy has been brought in. And with respect to fiscal incentive, there is a 50% waiver on cess for oil and 75% waiver on royalty for gas, which is being indicated. And coal bed methane round is on. Shale oil and gas is being announced. Even in the when you go for the exploitation of the coal bed methane, if you find the shale zones in this one, you can also extract from shale oil and gas. And several blocks are on. Now the bidding rounds are on for potential investors. And gas head rate is also one futuristic area which we are looking. And we are working on this one. But
Dr. Reddy, please now.
Yeah, it's over. And thank you very much. Thank you very much. And basically, Indian upstream oil and gas sector is trying to attract investment prospect, and we are doing our best to get the things. Thank you very much, sir, for giving me opportunity, and then I could articulate whatever I could do in the given time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. Now, Mr. Verma, please.
Request Mr. Anand Gupta now, because he'll be talking about other than OLP things like CBM and these. So, Anand Gupta, can you please make it slightly faster, because we are running quite behind schedule.
10 minutes, please. 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers, and especially to Mr. Ashok Verma for giving us this opportunity to present production scenario in India with focus on DSF and CBM. And I also see the former CMDs of ONGC, and I am humbled to present this information and update with respect to production status, DSF and CBM. And we'll also try to show some of the recent work which has been done and which has helped us in improving the production, and how we are trying to open some of the fields which were stranded and closed for some time, and what opportunities it will lead to. Next, please. So my presentation is covering in these parts, and I'll try to be brief and quickly sum up. This presentation can be shared later on with all of you. This covers basically oil and gas production scenario, offshore and onshore production part. What is the target for 23-24, which has been prepared in detail after consulting with the operators. As you know, there are 30 operators in the currently active in various production blocks over here. What has been the scenario during 21-22, because we have just finished this year 21-22. What are the key strategies and focus, and what is the producing fields analysis? So we have carried out analysis that with how many number of fields are contributing how much of production, and which is important in terms of moving forward. We as I was mentioning, some of the fields we have recently opened or monetized. Where do we stand over there? What are the investment opportunities for DSF3 and CBM? Next, please. So this is that production as we stand over here. As you can see, for the last 10 years, we have seen a consistent decline in terms of oil production, and gas production. But there is a good news that in 21-22, after consistent decline, the production has been reversed, and this year there has been an increase of 18.5% of gas production with respect to the year 2021. We plan to achieve 40 million ton of oil during 23-24 and 50 BCM of gas, which will be the highest production historically achieved. The last highest was achieved in 2011-12 with respect to the oil production of 38 million ton and gas production of 2010-11, that is 52 BCM. Next, please. So, yeah, so this is how it is actually, that as I was mentioning, that in terms of oil production, if we see in terms of how much we will be importing, so we expect that by 23-24, we will be importing 81% of our oil requirement and 30% of gas requirement if we are able to achieve these targets. Next, please. So this is how it is actually, the scenario as I was mentioning with respect to gas production turnaround. This is the year. In 21-22, average gas production per day basis was 93 MMSCMD. And after 2014-15, we have achieved this production. And this has been possible because of the commissioning of the gas production from the East Coast by the operator for Reliance in 98/3. And before that, in 2013-14, our highest production was 97 MMSCMD. We have now plans to produce by 24-25 about 140 MMSCMD per day, which will lead to a production of 50 BCM by the year 24-25. Next, please. So this is how the breakup, as I mentioned, there are 30 operators which are working in the country actually, and out of this, our analysis shows that 4 major operators, that is ONGC, Oil India, Vedanta, and Reliance, they contribute 96% of the production. And in the years to come, that is by 23-24, this is how the scenario will look like. These 4 will contribute 96%. About 12 medium-sized operators will contribute 3%, and small operators will contribute out of 1 to 1.5% of the production by this year 23-24. Next, please. So this is how the offshore and onshore production distribution it is actually. In the year 2021, both onshore and offshore contributed about 50% each. In 21-22, it is also almost the same type of thing. And in the year 2024-25, we expect that offshore will contribute about 52% of oil and onshore 48% of gas. So this will be balancing about 50-50% and onshore and offshore production in the years to come also, as per the estimate now. Next. So this is how is the gas production scenario with respect to onshore and offshore. Currently in 2021, there was in onshore contribution was 36%, offshore was 64%. In 21-22 also in offshore was 33 and offshore was 67%. This increase, as I mentioned, has come because of the commissioning in the East Coast. And the year by 24-25, this will be 1/3 and 2/3 with respect to onshore and offshore contribution with respect to the gas. Next. These are the, actually, I've tried to display that over the years, how the different discoveries have come. And these discoveries have led to the production enhancement. The one which you are showing in the blue color and the violet color are basically discoveries from the West Coast and East Coast, because major discoveries which have come from the offshore have contributed to the rise in the production, except in the RG90/1, that is the Vedanta block. Next. And this is how it is actually, that in order to monitor and then work out that what are the different parameters which are there in terms of overall production. So these are the 5 parameters: oil production, gas production, development wells, how many wells we need to drill in order to achieve this kind of production, what is our development capex which need to put together, almost $4 billion of investment per year, and the flowing wells, which will be one of the major parameters, because these are the entity which is going to contribute. We expect that by 24-25, we should have 8,000 wells which will be contributing to the production of oil and gas. Next. So these are the strategy and focus areas which we have identified for 1 or 2 years, 3 to 4 years, short term, medium term, and long term. Short term, the identification is with respect to the resolving JV issues. There were about 10 to 11 JV issues where difference of opinion between the JV partners were there or with the government. We have resolved most of them, and some of them are under resolution, which will be contributing or have started contributing towards the production enhancement. I mentioned about the flowing wells. So we have to ensure that the flowing wells, falling 6 are reduced. There are less number of non-flowing wells. There is an emphasis of increasing the resource and infrastructure sharing, for which a common carrier pipeline, common carrier data is being collected, and we are putting all data together in one platform, and through that platform, all the information will be available. As was mentioned regarding production enhancement contract, ONGC and Oil India have brought out the production enhancement contract for which the tendering is going on. There are about 18 blocks which are contiguous in nature, and there is need to have the joint development framework in order to monetize these blocks. New technology, which is very important, and we have seen across the operators that new technologies are to be brought for sharing together with the different operators. Recovery enhancement we have discussed. There are about 35 FDPs which are currently under execution. This needs to be expedited. We have also worked out a detailed analysis for all those non-producing PMS which are not contributing, must start contributing, or these needs to be offered to some other operators who can start production. And we need to increase the production from CBM blocks, for which I will be quickly showing about the special CBM bid round. In long term, more than 4 years, EOR, IOR work is going on. PRMS, my colleague has already shown. HPHT, which is another important area. Ultra deep water discoveries, which is being getting developed in the East Coast, and YTF resources. Next, please. So just to show you, sir, where do we stand in terms of 21-22, how the production performance has been. So this is how it is actually. The top line shows the target which was put together for the country to produce. We have not been able to achieve the target which was put together with respect to the country. Then next is the ONGC line, bottom two lines, second two lines. The third lines are with respect to the contract regime and Oil India. This is similarly next for the gas production. But there is a rising trend, which I was mentioning at the positive news. Next, please. Next. So I was mentioning about with respect to the country's oil producing fields, Oil India. This is the analysis of 253 producing fields of the country. If we can see the bottom table which has been put together, country, just hold on. 5 top producing fields of the country produce 50% of the total production, out of which 3 are with ONGC, 1 with KN, that is 90 by 1 block in Rajasthan, 198 by 3, that is Reliance. Another 3 blocks contribute 10%. Another 6 blocks another 7 blocks contribute another 7%, and another 12 blocks contribute another 10%. So first top 5 producing fields of the country itself contribute 50%. These are the 27 major producing fields which contribute about 80% of the production. Remaining 52 contribute another 10%, and remaining 253, that's how makes it together to produce about 99% of the country's production. Next, please. And this is the top 10 producing fields of the country with respect to the oil. Left side the chart you can see, and the right side you can see with respect to the gas production. So top 10 blocks contribute about 65% of oil, and top 10 blocks of the fields contribute about 70% of the gas. So I was trying to mention that recently monetized revived fields and under monetization, which we expect to contribute in the years to come. Next, 98 by 3 I mentioned, the block which is with the Reliance, which has been commissioned. Out of the 3 fields, 2 have been commissioned, and 1 is expected to contribute by expected to be commissioned by the Q3 of this year. And currently they are contributing about 18 million meter cube of gas per day. It is expected to be increased to 30 million meter cube per day by the next year. Next. This is how it is. The Amgudi field, which was not producing for the last 10 years. Mr. Verma may be remembering when we were there in Assam. This field was shut from 2011. So after a lot of efforts and resolving the issue, this field has been put on production since October of last year. It is contributing about 500 barrels per day and about 6.5 million standard cubic feet per day. It is expected to be increased to 4 times. That is the kind of potential which the field is holding. Next, please. These are the 3 another small fields which were closed for 3 to 5 years have been put, the issue has been resolved with respect to the PI transfer. Unnava, Bhandut and Cambe, and these fields have started contributing during the last 4 months. Next. I was mentioning about the DSF. So this is the first northeast field in Hazarigaon, which has been, the well has been worked over. It was discovered actually by ONGC in 2007-8. It was offered in DSF. The operators has done the workover, and it is expected to be commissioned by this month end, producing about 1.5 lakh meter cube of gas per day. And there is opportunity in terms of exploration in the block, and exploratory well has started drilling. Next. This is another DSF field, which will be the first DSF field by DSF operator B80. which is currently under commissioning, expected to produce about 5,000 barrels per day and 3 lakh meter cube of gas per day. Next. This is another field which is being commissioned by ONGC, Chinnewala Tibba, and it is also expected to be commissioned by the July 22, and it will produce 2 lakh meter cube of gas per day and has got upside potential to produce 4 lakh meter cube of gas per day. So these are the investment opportunities, as was partly mentioned by my colleague ATG Exploration, DSF-3 bid round. Next. So before that, I'll just quickly say about the DSF policy, which was brought in 2016, and it has got a lot of unique features. There was single license for conventional and unconventional. There was no technical experience required. There was no signature bonus required. Full marketing and pricing freedom was there. Exploration is allowed during the entire contract period, and 100% participation by foreign companies is also allowed. Next. So this is the status from DSF 1 and 2. Total 54 contracts were awarded, out of which 30 FDPs have been submitted for 100 MMTOE. Investment of about $1.76 billion has been estimated. And these are the photographs of some of the blocks which have been commissioned or under commissioning. Next. So this is how it is for DSF-3. Currently, we have offered 75 discoveries, which are spread across 32 contract areas. These are covering about 230 million ton of oil equivalent. About 13,000 square kilometer of area is covered. There is marketing, pricing freedom, and good amount of data is available with respect to analysis and venturing. These are the areas where these discoveries have been covered. Next. And this is how it is with respect to the onshore, shallow water and deep water. 19 discoveries in onshore, in 54 in shallow water and remaining in deep water. These are the requisites with respect to the terms and conditions for the DSF blocks. Next. And as I was mentioning, this is a very simple bid qualification qualifying criteria. Only you have to see the tender fees you have to submit, and you have to submit with respect to the either individually or in association. Next. There is bid work program weightage is 50% and revenue sharing is 50% weightage has been given, which has been revised from the earlier of 20-80%. Next. This is how the data can be viewed. Data is available in the NDR over here. Data packages are there. Field information dockets have been prepared. Next. And this is the bid submission date for 20th April. The bid will start. Bidding portal will be opened, and the bid submission date is 31st May. This is a special CBM bid round which we are carrying out, and next. This is the overall status with respect to 33 blocks which were offered under the different rounds or nomination or FIPB, out of which 8 are currently operating under these 3 states, that is West Bengal, Jharkhand, and Madhya Pradesh. Next. It has investment of $2 billion has been made, with 5.1 BCM of gas has been recovered till now. Next. These are the blocks, and we expect with the kind of activity which is currently going on to triple the gas production from the CBM blocks in the next 3 years. These are the blocks which are under offer under the special CBM bid round, spread across the 6 states, that is Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Odisha, and West Bengal. Next. And these are the unique features. There is no revenue sharing until the windfall gain, which is a very attractive feature. And as I mentioned, single license, marketing and pricing freedom, exploration is allowed during the entire period. And one more thing, what we learned that earlier, one block was spread across 2 or 3 states. So now one block is with 1 state only, so that clearances are easier and simpler. And then gas pipeline infrastructure has also increased over the years, so it will be easier and better to evacuate the gas from these blocks. Next. So this is the bid qualification criteria. And next. And bid submission starts from 15th April till 31st of May. Thank you very much for the time and opportunity. I've tried to finish it at the earliest because the time was short. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Mr. Gupta, you really expedited your presentation, and of course, you have covered all the areas you had in mind. And God willing, country will be able to adhere to these parameters, the dates which have been mentioned. We can now move further. I leave the platform to Mr. Shahi. Please, you can.
I think we had very comprehensive and very long presentations, very educative presentation, very informative, highly informative for all of them. Of course, starting with Amar Nath ji, Additional Secretary, he set the stage, and Dr. Chandrasekharan and Dr. Reddy and Dr. Anand Gupta. I think it could not have been better. All of us are quite informed and educated this morning and afternoon. I don't think there is time for any question answer, but we can have one or two, for otherwise people will say there was no scope, and then we'll round up. Anyone, because the discussion and the presentations have been so informative that there would be no scope. But one question I would ask, if Dr. Chandrasekharan is still there, because if I picked him up properly, he said after 2012, the exploration was considerably slowed down. The message in the presentations, all these presentations have been explore, 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 investigate, because you are in bad shape, declining production, etc., etc. Then why was it slowed? Was there any reason, Dr. Chandrasekhar, if he's there, still there?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
while on the one hand we are facing the problem of declining production, and very hopeful, very successful organizations, large organizations one could be proud of in the petroleum industry, but for a good period of 10 years, the exploration is slowed. Why?
So one of the main reasons which can be ascribed to is the lack of new acreages which were available. So this is what ADG Exploration was trying to explain. The NELP, the last round came in 2012. So subsequently, there was a complete, the OALP then started coming only in 2018. So there was a change in the total policy, and the new blocks which were offered to the operators. There was a good amount of 6 to 7 years, which was completely there was no new allocation of new acreage. So this is one thing, and the another thing is mainly then everything is confined to the existing mining lease acreages of the operators. And there was also, if I may be allowed to add one more point, there was also a policy which would not allow the operators in non-nomination acreages, that is in pre-NELP and the NELP acreages, that exploration could not be done in the mining lease acreages. So this policy also got refined now, and then they have revised it. So there was
very good. That explains. Mr. Verma, you wanted to? Yes, Verma, you wanted.
I want to say that over a period of time, we found that the new findings which they had, it has gone for only replenishment of the fall in the productivity of the old wells, etc. Number one. And second thing, when we were doing the geothermal exploration in Kuga, etc., we took the help of ONGC, etc., and ONGC told us that they had a constraint of drilling deeper into the earth, and this constraint was coming in the way of their own exploration also. Dr. Chandrasekhar also said that in Brahmaputra there was a possibility of getting some oil or gas, but due to certain reasons it was not done. He has actually not explained what are these constraints and why the production has not gone high as per the requirement of the country.
Okay, he explained just now. Chandrasekhar just now explained that almost 6, 7, 8 years exploration was for some reason or the other not done. So I think let's now the time is not there.
Hi, sir. Please, Mr. R.S. Sharma has been raising his hand.
Mr. Sharma?
Sir, I'll try to be as brief as possible, but since I'm quite passionate about the sector, I thought I'd like to say. One is that gravity of the situation is actually, I feel, more alarming than it is being perceived as of now. There's a lot of talk about greening the energy sector, but unfortunately, ground realities, even at the global level, are not so rosy. Just 2 weeks back, in US official agency, the Energy Information Administration, their assessment is in 2050, 66% of the vehicles will be driving on this petrol and petroleum products. I'll not go into more detail. It is available on the Google. But thing is, what we need in our country is disruptive reforms. I'm very happy, Dr. Lakshma Reddy, that you mentioned all this thing, and you mentioned about the Dr. Kelkar committee report. I was a very active member in that committee, and I have actually spent time in Niti Aayog with Mr. Amitabh Kant to suggest some big ticket reforms. And I'm happy he shared with me most of your recommendations have been implemented. But 2-3 major recommendations still to be implemented. One is that very clear policy on that free gas pricing. Imported crude oil gets import parity price. Why not gas? Domestic production of gas, why it doesn't get import parity price? So it's I'll not raise this, but I'm flagging an issue. Second, exploration is not a revenue generating activity. Why shouldn't exploration activity per se be exempted from all levy of taxes, GST, custom duty, etc.? There's not much happening on exploration. We are not getting revenue. Big ticket reforms will be you have to incentivize this exploration activity. So these are a couple of things I wanted to mention, and especially also this gas-based economy. A report came under my chairmanship just 2 years back. So we have gone to Niti Aayog and everything, but nothing much has happened on this. So that policy makers, I find the seriousness of this big ticket reforms is unfortunately somewhere lacking. If at this forum we can flag this issue, I am so happy to see Dr. Amar from DGH, Dr. Lakshma Reddy, Anand Gupta, and Mr. Chandrasekhar, very good presentation. But instead of going into small issues, look for macro level reforms. That is my message through this forum to the policymakers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good, Dr. Sharma. I think that has been a great contribution from you in your report, and now sort of giving a suggestion to the government. Only thing is that the past 10-15 years, we can see it has been a little problematic in the sense that it has declined. As Mr. V.S. Verma mentioned that production increase has been offset by production decrease in many places. So as a result, net has been just marginal or negative, I mentioned in the beginning also. Now, one thing from all presentations I got that though the process somewhere slowed down, and for good 8-10 years we got into problem, now it has been further supplemented by Mr. Sharma, that not only that, some big ticket reforms are needed, otherwise we will still be in difficulty. So at least a couple of presentations made toward the end, including of course also Dr. Chandrasekhar and Reddy and Mr. Gupta, they give us a better picture. Some of the charts show in 2021 and 21-22 a little bit of better picture, the marginal increase, and they feel that in the future it will be better. Let us hope. As I said, that consumption pattern in energy sector is changing. For coal and for petroleum, time is running out. If they do not change from both sides, one, cost effectiveness and climate change point of view, then I think I also had a session on petroleum sector where we talked more on diversification of petroleum sector rather than expansion of petroleum sector. People are diversifying into different areas. I think it is very difficult to say what will happen in 2040, 50, but the presentations make it clear that somehow we will marginally increase the production. Whether that will really dilute the percentage of export, I do not know. Import, I don't know. Because your consumption may also increase, little bit of production may increase, but import percentage may either remain same or maybe marginally decrease. Yeah, I mean, one of the presentations did say that in next 5, 6, 7 years, perhaps from 85%, it will come down to 81%. That is hardly any satisfaction. If 81% of what India consumes has to import, then we have to do a lot more. And I agree with Mr. Sharma that we have to do a lot more. So I think that is there. The whole idea was that while on the one hand, we are trying to say that we should be Atmanirbhar, self-reliance, but on the other hand, even the projections of next 10 years does not indicate that we are going to reduce our percentage of import below 80%, let alone going to 70%, 60%. So I think, but good news is that something is moving. There was a slowness, something is moving. Mr. Sharma mentioned that many of the recommendations made in the gas report have been implemented. Couple of things he mentioned about exploration. Why should there be taxes on exploration? Because exploration is a national developmental work that people don't make money out of it. Of course, if they get some good results, then that can follow the results. So I think this is a good suggestion. We can recommend from our side as well. But I think since time is less and the subject is so important, maybe we will have another session later on, to more focus. Let us see whatever projections have been given today, but for 23, 24 and 24, 25, whether we are coming to 81% or 80% or not. Though, as I said, 80, 81% cannot be our target, 80, 81% import. I mean, all of us have to work toward something better. Otherwise, disruptive technologies will write the history of all sectors of not only this sector of coal. Coal, we have similar, very dispassionate or passionate discussions. There also writing is on the wall. I think many things are going to happen in the coal sector. They are also trying to do research to see what best can be done. So with that, I think I thank you very much. And particularly, Mr. Sharma, you took time to give us your views. And all the speakers, I mean, for me, it has been highly informative and educative. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Shahi, for summing up the. Yes, it was a very, very exhaustive presentation given by all the delegate, the participants. The presentations were very, very exhaustive, and they gave. Let us hope that there will be considerable changes in the whole sector. May I now request Mr. Verma to officially propose a vote of thanks before we close. Verma ji.
Certainly, thanks a lot to Bambali sir for giving me this opportunity now. And as Shai Saab said, and also Sharma Saab also said, these are wonderful presentations and a lot of things to be gained and a lot of new data and information, which even though I think that I try to keep abreast of whatever is happening, and I was not knowing. So many things are very new, which you told me today. So thank you both Anand Gupta ji and our Mr. Lakshman Reddy ji. And in fact, I feel very sorry that we were left with almost
also Chandrasekhar, why are you missing?
Yes, sir. No, I'm just coming to him, sir. Just coming to him. Sir, we are just, because we don't have time, so we didn't go into the question answer thing. I had at least a dozen questions to Mr. Chandrasekharan, because he had given such a beautiful presentation on that and many questions which were raised basically on that. So I thought I wanted to raise them towards the end, but hardly any time. But maybe I'll disturb with Chandrasekharan Saab later on the phone personally. So maybe we'll keep on talking on that. So first of all, I'd like to thank Amarnath ji, who very kindly agreed to come and give his keynote address. And in fact, it started with that his keynote address itself, so many good things and points which we need to ponder were told to us. So wonderful keynote address, and I would like to thank him in spite of his busy schedule. He came here and gave that. And Shai Saab for your kind guidance all through. You kept on pushing us for giving this kind of webinar. Then I also had a very good support from our RK Malhotra sir. I'm sorry he is not present today. He had another meeting clashing with it. So he asked me to excuse. I would like to thank our speakers, Dr. Chandrasekhar, Dr. Lakshman Reddy, and Dr. Anand Gupta. All of them, on my just one phone call, they agreed to join, and they said that they'll be ready with the presentations. Of course, Mr. Gupta and Mr. Lakshman Reddy had a little problem because they had to seek approval from their boss before giving a public presentation. But they did all that, and I would like to thank the DGH also, because I talked to him and he was also very kind to have allowed it. He himself said that I requested him to come. But he said because these two, there's no need for him to come. Mr. Lakshman Reddy and Mr. Anand, I have covered it very nicely, and I still have many questions, and perhaps we'll be talking more on that. I would like to thank many dignitaries who are present on this. I think I don't know whom to name because almost every name is a big name here. Particularly Arish Sharma sir, because he spoke also, is visible. Mr. Saraf was also available. I don't know, he's present now. He seems to be present there. There are many from other sectors also, including power and coal. And I don't know how many of them were really interested in the oil sector because the coal sector was only a small coal CPM part was there, but I think they might have gained something. I would like to thank all of you for your presentation and patiently hearing, and would like to see feedbacks from you. In case you have any questions or something, kindly send it to us and we'll be very happy to forward it to speakers and try to get the response and send it back to you. Again, we are behind schedule, but you have all very patiently heard it. I would like to thank all of you and we look forward to meeting soon on some different webinar of India Energy Forum.
Thank you.
And finally, thanks to Bambari sir for coordinating it, and Mr. Rawat, who is behind the screen, but doing all the things here, all the controlling things. Thank you all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Verma. We had a very successful webinar. We hope that all the presentations are there so we can answer if anybody has any more data required. Thank you very much. Time to say goodbye.
Thank you.